Hey bookworms, welcome back. It's your girl Jess here with another video, and this time we are going to talk about my top 10 books of the year, 5 of my favorites and 5 that were utterly disappointing. And I might throw in 2 extras because I make the rules and this is my list, and I could not choose, like, I needed like an honorable mention for each, you know? So it's technically 12 instead of 10, but 10's a nice number, so we're going to say 10, okay? Okay. Alright, so let's not waste any time like I usually do, and let's get right into it. Should we start with the good or the bad? Let's end on a high note, so let's start with the bad. Okay, so these aren't the worst books I read this year. They were just the most disappointing books I read this year. Like, books I had such high hopes for and was just, I was just like, wow. And I don't want to make a worst books list because if something was bad, I just DNF it. So there's no point in even just talking about how bad it is when I just didn't even finish it. Anyways, yeah, so we're going to start with 5 books that I found very disappointing, and we're going to throw in an honorable mention of 1 book that I just also found disappointing, but, you know, didn't make quite the top 5, you know, just thought I'd put it out there like, hey, this book also kind of let me down. Number 5 on this list is The Matzo Ball. I was so looking forward to this book and was utterly disappointed with how lackluster it was. Like, you guys will see in my December wrap up, you know, how I felt about it, but I just was utterly disappointed about it. I was looking forward to it so badly and was just so excited to read a holiday romance book that didn't center, like, you know, Christian pagan Christianity. It was really focused on, you know, a different religion and culture, and it was just so fucking boring. It was so fucking boring. Like, and the chemistry between the characters was just non-existent. I couldn't deal with it, and there were other issues I had with it too. Also, you could check out my December wrap up for you know, my further critiques of it, but the matzo ball just let me down, and I just, like, no, I couldn't do it at all. So that is number 5 on this list. Number 4 on this list is A Deadly Inside Scoop. I was so disappointed in this book. I wanted to DNF it like 3-4 times while reading it. I was just so upset. I was just so excited to read a cozy murder mystery with a black female protagonist written by a black author, and I was just kind of like, what is this? Like, and it spent all this time talking about the details of how to make ice cream, and the murder was goofy, and just I was disappointed. I was really disappointed. I was hurt about how disappointed I was in this book. I really thought it was going to be so exciting and top tier to read, and I was just, more than anything, bored. I was just so bored. And you can read, when did I read this book? August. You can read my August wrap up to get a sense of, you know, my issues with the book, but I just overall was just thought that this thing was going to be a great time and was like here to support, and I was just like, no, I can't, because this is not interesting whatsoever. Number 3 on this list is My Heart is a Chainsaw. So upset. First of all, Stephen Graham Jones is like a very prolific writer, and he is like heralded throughout the book community, and so I was just on it to read something from him. And the fact that he wrote a horror novel, and I was like, yes, I'm going to read this during Spooktober, during October, and it was about a girl who's obsessed with 80s slasher films, and she thinks she's living in an 80s slasher film to the point where, like, she becomes this unreliable narrator, and I was just like so here for it, and I love the book's cover, so I was just like, yes, here for this, like, and just from Bow Ties and Books and Gabby from Gabby Reads, they both read the books as well, and neither of them liked it either. And to know that they were just as disappointed by the book that I was, let me know that I wasn't crazy. I was just, I couldn't even, I got nearly 50 pages in and I had to DNF. I was just kind of like, it was dragging, it was boring, I was falling asleep. Like, it was just so in all this unnecessary detail. Like, the first chapter starts off really great, really spooky and terrifying, and you're just like, holy shit. And then the rest of the book is just the slog. Like, oh my god. And Stephen Graham Jones is an indigenous person, and our female protagonist in the book, she's indigenous as well. So I was just so excited to read a horror novel from the perspective of a different culture, a non-white culture. And I was just like, oh my god, I can't get through this. Like, I can't even keep my eyes open. It was so boring. I had to DNF it. I still have it. I'm not going to unhaul it. I'm going to at some point try, maybe sort of kind of get back into it. Maybe I need to give it a second chance. But as far as like trying to read it in 2021, I couldn't do it. I was just like, I'll do this at some other time, maybe, sort of, kind of. But yeah, it's on this list of disappointing reads, and hurts my heart that I felt that way about the book only 50 pages in. Number 2 on this list is In Her Pumpkin Patch by Alina Jones. Alina Jones? I think that's James. I don't know. Who cares? Because I'm never going to read one of her books ever again. 20 pages in. 20 pages in, and I knew her writing style was not for me, and it was not going to happen. It was really sophomoric and immature, and I don't say that in a that's in regards to her writing style, not necessarily what was written, not the story itself. It was just kind of like, I love holiday romances, and the fact that I found a really awesome Halloween holiday romance, I was like so here for it. And the catchy, like goofy little title, In Her Pumpkin Patch, and she was a thick bitch. She was like 500 pages, and I was like, I ain't scared, because I was anticipating it being, this really fantastic romance, and it was fucking not. And I was really disappointed. Her writing style was just not up to par for somebody who's publishing books. Like, it was just kind of like, wow, I need you to take a writing class. Because there should be no way that somebody gets 20 pages into your book and then they're like, yeah, no, I'm not even going to bother try to finish this. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. And I had every intention of, if liking this book, reading her other holiday romances with the catchy little titles, but I just couldn't do it. I was just like, no. And I felt like I wasted my money buying this on Amazon. Like, I was really upset about how disappointing this book was. And you know what? To be honest with you, I think given the fact that book, In Her Pumpkin Patch, was so disappointing, is why I gave such a high grade to the X-Hex. The X-Hex actually is pretty mid. It's pretty mediocre. But having been disappointed by a number of books that month, and especially In Her Pumpkin Patch, which was like a Halloween themed romance I was looking forward to reading, and then picking up the X-Hex, which was, miles better than that, that's why I gave the X-Hex such a high grade. It doesn't act, like, when I think about it, and when I skimmed through the X-Hex, I was like, this doesn't exactly deserve as high a grade as I gave it. But I think I gave it such a high grade because I was so disappointed in the other books. Because I was so disappointed in this book, I ended up giving another book a grade it did not deserve. But I'm not even mad about that, because I ended up enjoying that book. And this book I had to DNF immediately. So there's that. Okay, we're going to get to our honorable mention before we get to our number 1. I'm doing it like Watch Mojo. You guys know what Watch Mojo is. Everybody knows what Watch Mojo is on YouTube. Like, everybody watches Watch Mojo. They always get, when they do a top 10, they go all the way up to 2, then they give an honorable mention, and then they go to the number 1. And that's what I'm stealing that whole that framework right there. So our honorable mention right now is Forget This Ever Happened. The premise of this book was so good, and I was so excited to read something like weird and strange and taking place in this odd town that has, like, you know, monsters and and with this queer romance in it. And so, but it just, like, I can do weird and I can do strange, I can do monsters, but the first 2/3 of the book were really good. Like, they were really getting to the suspense there. What happened, why the last third of the book failed, is because we, the reader, understood what was happening before the characters did. So you spend the last third of the book, wait for them to catch up. You're already there, and you're like, come on, grab the mustard and catch up. Let's go. Like, we're already there. Let's get to the climax. Let's do it. And then the climax itself was just lackluster in general. Sometimes it's fascinating watching, as a reader or as a part of an audience, watching the characters catch up to where you already are, seeing what their reaction is going to be to the twist or reveal or climax of, you know, the last third of the book or the movie or the TV show, whatever. It's really fascinating to see how they're going to react to it, what their decision is going to be, even though you've already figured it out, you're already there. But it didn't work for me, at least, reading this book. I was just kind of like, okay, it took her forever to get here. Now that we're here, bleh. And the most disappointing book that I read this year is The Unlikelies. I don't think I anticipated a book this year more than this one. I, honest to God, really love the premise of a bunch of teenagers after a horrible incident decide to come together and make the world a better place by doing good for people, and then that spreads out in this kind of like pay it forward. And it just turned into a teen melodrama. So I was just kind of like, look, miss, if you just wanted to write a book about a bunch of teenagers, you know, having romance and drama during a summer in the Hamptons, you just should have wrote that. I don't understand why she just didn't write that. I mean, she did. I think the premise was too big for it. I think that's what it was. I think the premise was too big for the execution. The premise was too big for the author. I think what the author really wanted to do was write a teen melodrama, but she framed it with this overall commentary on humanity and culture and kindness and goodness and capitalism and, you know, corruption. And you know, she framed a teen melodrama within this larger conversation, but ended up ignoring the larger conversation and focusing a little too much on the teen melodrama. And the teen melodrama was not what I was fucking here for. This eggnog is good. So those were my 5 disappointing reads of the year. So let's move on to my 5 favorite reads of the year. My absolute favorite reads of the year. Alright, so number 5 on my favorite reads of the year, Aristotle and Dante discovered the secrets of the universe. I loved this book. I loved it. I probably would have cried at the end if it wasn't for all the teenage boy angst throughout it. But I understand that that's, you know, that's a part of it. That's what it's saying. That's what it's about. That's, you know, a theme of it. Just, you know, the emotional turmoil that boys go through in general, but these particular boys and their particular issues and their particular discovery of self. So hence the title Discovery the Secrets of the Universe. And then what they discover the secrets of the universe is each other and themselves. And, oh god, it's just so good. It is an LGBT queer book, young adult novel, about these 2 Mexican boys during the 80s living in Texas who grow up to be friends and quite possibly something more, or maybe not, and trying to figure out who they are as you know, people, who they are as Latinx boys, who they are as who they want to be in the future, and who they are to each other. And it's just brilliant and beautiful. And I flew through this book in like a day and a half, and I love every page and word on it. It was just so goddamn good, and I cannot wait to read the sequel. I think I'm going to save and try and read it in June for Gay Pride Month, but it is definitely on the list. Yeah, and I think I definitely also want to try and save it, wait until then to read it as well, because I want it in paperback. Right now I think it's just in hardback, and I want it in paperback. But it's brilliant, and it's so beautifully written. Oh my god. And it doesn't waste time with. And when I say beautifully written, I mean there's not a lot of purple prose. It's not flowery and long-winded and, you know, highfalutin. It's beautiful in its honesty and realness. Like, it's just, I love that book. I thought it was so good. It's not even just in my top 5 of the year. It's probably in my top 10 books of all time. Number 4, Ship It by Britta London. This book felt meant for me. It felt meant for anybody who's ever been a part of fandom, of queer community, especially, you know, women, who have been mocked and dismissed and ridiculed. It really, like, Britta London, her book felt like, honest to God, it was written for me. And all the girls and women like me who were in fandoms and just loved every inch of it, but weren't respected by those who created the thing that we love so much, and, you know, who were only seen as valuable dollars and not valuable voices. And yes, the book has a lot of wish fulfillment in it, but that's also what I love too, because as a fangirl, that's what this book is. It's a love letter to fangirls. And especially to be a fangirl who is involved in queer shipping. That's what I mean about this being a love letter to fangirls. It really does make you feel seen, and you can tell, and you know Britta London has been in the same shoes as you. But I thoroughly appreciate, you know, Britta London, you know, writing something cutesy and sweet, but also profound, and within it saying, if no one else sees you, I fucking see you. Number 3 on this list is Tampa by Elisa Nutting. This book wrecked me. This book fucking wrecked me. This book has been living rent-free in my head since I finished it. This book has haunted me since I finished it. It is brilliant and disturbing and fucked up and honest and wild and just trigger warning for every goddamn thing on the planet. Like, it just, I loved what it was saying about predatory behavior. I loved what it was saying about female predatory behavior and the hypocrisy of female predatory behavior. And I loved how it showcased how truly emotionally damaging and violent and vile it is, and how we dismiss it because the people perpetrating the behaviors are female, and how our society views the abuse of female predators, and how we ignore the victims of female predators. And this book highlights that in very graphic and disturbing detail, and I feel like that was necessary in order to convey the message of what exactly it is that we are lacking and what we are doing and failing the victims of these crimes. So yeah, Tampa was just, you know, it really just, it fucking went there, and I honestly appreciate that. But yeah, I really did love that book. I thought the cover was amazing. That's what grabbed me. And then when I found out what the book was about too, I was just like, okay, let's dive into this. And I did, and it's just been like haunting ever since. But that, I think that's just a an attestament to Elisa Nunning's, brilliant writing and her storytelling. But yeah, Tampa, number 3 on this list of the best books that I read this year. Number 2 on this list is the graphic novel Bloom. Oh my god! I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I don't know what else to say other than that, like, the artistry in it was beautiful, the story was sweet. I only had one tiny issue with the book, and that was that I felt like our hero needed to do a little bit more groveling at the end in order to obtain forgiveness from his love interest. But it is a queer graphic novel about this very sweet boy who's in a band, who lives in this small beach town, who wants absolutely nothing more than to get out of said small beach town and be on his own, and away from his overbearing parents, particularly his father, who is determined to have him take over the bakery that he owns, but he wants, nothing to do with that. He has his own goals and plans, and it's just about this generational familiar divide between them, and this blossoming romance he gets with this boy who ends up working at the bakery with him. So it's just, and I think also the reason why I love it so much is because the illustrations remind me a lot of one of my all-time favorite TV shows, which is Steven Universe, which also takes place in a very small beach town. But the drawings seem very similar, and I clearly gravitate to that type of style of artistry. But it just, like, there wasn't a moment from the first frame from the of that graphic novel to the last that I didn't love it, that I just wasn't, I was not upset at all about spending money on it. I just like, you ever just buy a book and you're like, this was worth the money, this was worth every fucking cent, this was worth me taking money out of my account and buying this book. Bloom, great. It was fantastic. I absolutely love it. Highly, highly recommend. It is my second favorite book that I read this year. Okay, honorable mention is going to go to The Secret Bridesmaid. I loved it. I loved it. It would have gotten 5 stars for me if it wasn't for the fact that the bride in the book, her being so antagonistic to our heroine, was just really annoying, to the point where sometimes I'm like, if you don't slap the shit out of this girl, I'ma do it. If you don't slap the taste out of her royal mouth, I'ma do it. What it says on the tin is about this woman who has a business as a secret bridesmaid. Basically, she's kind of like, a day of coordinator, but for the entire wedding, for the entire duration of the wedding. Her job is to do exactly what you want when you want it and never say no. She does make suggestions to kind of steer people into a different way, but she does go above and beyond for her clients, which was great. Like this one client who has a Star Wars wedding. She had another client who wanted her to dye her hair red, and she was just like, okay, I guess that's what you want me to do. But yeah, it's, and having been a bridesmaid and having been a bride, you realize that, like, she is filling a gap. She is filling a void of, bridesmaids who are unreliable and don't listen. At least she's the one that can rally all the troops, or brides who are crazy and, need someone to adhere to their crazy, to listen to their crazy and sympathize with their crazy. She's there for that. So, there's like, I was afraid reading this book, I was just gonna be like, why is this a job? But she really did capture that there should be, or there could be, a market for this job. This could be a real job. So, but it was just really sweet. The whole thing takes place in the UK. She's planning the wedding. She's reluctantly planning the wedding for this bride who is a member of the peerage, who doesn't want her to be involved whatsoever, doesn't want her there. She didn't hire her, her mother did. So she's just really hostile and difficult to our heroine the whole time, but our heroine just, picks herself up, dusts herself off, and does everything that she can to, try and make her happy and do her job, and not fail at this, and realizing that this is the wedding of the century in London, and if she can pull this off, if she can do it, then her client base is just going to boom, and she's just going to be, set in her business, and she loves doing what she does, and it was just really great. It was very Richard Curtis. It was very much Love Actually for weddings and a funeral. It was very much that, and I like those movies a lot. So it was really, I had such a really good time reading this book, and I liked it. So yeah, honorable mention to The Secret Bridesmaid. And the best book that I read this year, There There by Tommy Orange. I compared it to Toni Morrison's Beloved, and I stand by that comparison as far as it being that goddamn good and needing that much praise. And I hope that there are people in the literary world who make things like that happen, for Tommy Orange in this book, because it was just amazing. It's about I think 12. Yeah, we have 12 characters that we're following as they all prepare to go to Oakland for a Native American powwow and convention. And unfortunately, when they're there, this horrible tragedy happens, and the last third of the book is you in that moment with those characters as they're experiencing that, and it is tragic and sad and beautiful and just heartbreaking and brilliant, reading all their perspectives as this thing goes down, in addition to the chapters beforehand, which tells you who these people are, what they've been through, and what they're like, and who they're hoping to be in the future. And I just, it's so good. It's just, I love it. And there are small bits of magic realism in it, as well as it being incredibly grounded. And I can't heap any more praise on this book than I can. It's just, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I loved it, and it really is like, I don't want to call it like the Native American version of Toni Morrison's Beloved, but I feel like there's a lot of parallel and story and appreciation. I didn't feel like an ounce of my time was wasted reading this book, and I absorbed all of it, and I loved all of it, and I highly recommend. All right, so those were the 10/12 books that I found incredible or I found absolutely disappointing this year. Read them all. See what you think. See, I might be wrong about something. Maybe you see something and, forget this ever happened that I didn't see. Or maybe you absolutely end up hating Tampa, or, Aristotle and Dante Discover Secrets in the Universe. I don't understand how you can hate either of those books, but to each his own. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope your Christmas is fantastic. I hope you're having a great holiday. And what else? Oh, wash your hands, wash your face, moisturize, take care of your feet, get vaccinated, get your booster shot, wear a mask, be safe this holiday, and enjoy your Christmas. Bye guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.